Okay, this drawing we are going to do the flat hook. So the flat hook is metric, and we will ultimately put it in the sheet layout. So I have the sheet layout open, but I'm not going to draw it in the sheet layout because it's inches. So I'm going to go ahead and go to File, New, and I'm going to draw it in the metric. I'm going to choose a metric setting for the unit. Alright, first thing I'll do is I'm going to start out with a circle. I can go center diameter. The smaller circle is a 45 millimeter diameter. The larger circle has a radius, center radius. I'll snap to that center radius of 50. Alright, so the bottom the hook part is a large circle. I'm going to get it started from the top here. So I'm going to go center radius, and it has a radius of 130 millimeters. And I draw it from that center point, and then I'm just going to move it. I'll take that and make sure my ortho's turned on. I'm going to move it straight down a distance of 180 millimeters. I'm going to go and do a TTR circle right here. TTR, tangent, tangent, radius. That radius is 50 millimeters. And then I'll go ahead and put this smaller circle in here. It has a radius of 62.5 millimeters. So type that in, 62.5. Alright, now I can go ahead and trim this up here if I wanted right now. Trim it. Alright, next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put a line, and I'm going to snap the tangent. Snap the tangent to this circle, snap the tangent to this circle. I'm going to offset this line. Offset distance is going to be 125 millimeters. I'm going to offset this down to there. I'm going to go ahead and put another TTR, tangent, tangent, radius down here. Tangent, tangent, radius is 25 millimeters. And now I can go ahead and trim all that up. There's a lot of trimming here. Trim this out, trim that out. Might have to do some deleting afterwards. Some of this stuff won't trim, so I'll just select it and delete it. Finish trimming this arc out. Okay. Alright, before you put this in the sheet layout, I want you to take an area calculation of this thing. This is important to go ahead and do this area calculation before you do any scaling. So in order to do the area calculation, we need to join this all together because it's individual entities. So I'm going to go ahead and select it all. I'm going to go to Join. And it's all joined together. I'm going to do my area calculation. So go to Add Area Object. Add that. Hit Enter. Subtract Area Object. And I need to subtract this little hole. And then I get that area calculation. Okay? So you want to record that area calculation. Alright, so we're going to put it in the sheet layout. I'm going to select it all. Do a Control C, go to the sheet layout, Control V, and put it in. Notice my sheet layout is very small, the flat hook is very big. So we're going to scale this down, but we're going to scale it down in two parts. One, we're going to scale it down. I'm going to go to Scale and select it all. I'm going to scale it down to convert it from metric to inches. So our conversion factor is 0.03937. 0.03937, that's 1 divided by 25.4. So we're going to hit Enter there. And you'll notice it's pretty small up here. So we're going to move it down. Turn my ortho off. Get it a little bit closer to the sheet layout. I'm going to zoom in. But I still want you to notice it's still too big to fit in the sheet layout. We're actually going to scale it down now in half. So we're going to go to Scale, select it again, select the base point, and type in 0.5. So we're scaling it in half again. shouldn't say in half again, but we're scaling it in half. The first scale was converting it from metric to inches. So now what I want to do is I want to get my center point here so that I can insert it in the sheet layout. So I use my X line, construction line, horizontal, snap there, escape, space bar, let's go vertical, snap there. I'm going to zoom in, I want to try to get to the right spot. Go to line, put a diagonal line from intersection to intersection, and go ahead and delete my X lines out, leaving my diagonal line. So I'm going to put another diagonal line in over here, as I always do. Go to move, snap that midpoint to that midpoint, and we're all centered up. Delete those lines. Now I have the flat hook centered in my sheet layout. Okay. All right, I'm going to put dimensions on here, but these dimensions are going to be a little bit tricky because we need to change that measurement scale because we scaled it twice. So we converted it from metric to inches and then we half sized it. So what we got to do, if you remember, if we go to dimension style, you go to modify. So normally what we did before when we just converted it from metric to inches, we inversed this and made it 25.4. But what we got to do this time is double that because we scaled it in half, so we got to double that. So we're going to go 50.8, which is 25.4 times 2. Okay? We're going to drop our precision down to 2 decimal places again. Remember, I only like you to do that on a metric drawing. All right, let's see what we got here with our dimensions. So I'm going to go ahead and dimension this diameter dimension, and it should read 45 millimeters in diameter. So if you don't have it reading that, you didn't scale it properly, and you didn't put the right value in to scale the measurements back up. So that we're basically tricking the dimensions to read what we want. So I'm going to go through and finish these dimensions. So there's a radius there. Got a radius down here. You know, I've mentioned this before. I always like to do my radius dimensions first. And I don't like that there. I'd rather it be on the other side. So radius dimensions, I got another radius dimension up here and down here. Okay, I have a couple linear dimensions here. I have a linear dimension from this center point from there to there. And notice all my dimensions are reading accurate. This dimension here is going to be tricky. I need you to pay attention here. So we're going to go and do an aligned dimension, and I'm going to choose the highest point here, this end point right here. And what's important here is we have to go and choose our perpendicular object snap, and that'll keep my alignment just right. Okay, so if you look down here, you know, I've mentioned this before that I don't like these endpoints to touch, or extension lines to touch the object line. This one doesn't, but it's very hard to see that it doesn't. So I'm going to show you something here. Let's go into the properties on this dimension. Scroll down and you'll see where it says extension line offset. Let's bump that up pretty high. Let's make it 0.25, quarter inch. And I want you to take note that now we have a nice little gap there just on that dimension. Okay, that's nice. Next thing I want you to do is put your center lines in. Let's go ahead and snap from center mark to center mark and put our gaps in. Make sure our ortho's on. Put our gap in. And what's nice here is we're still, being that our scale is matched up to the size of a sheet of paper coming out on our printer, so everything's scaled to the size of 8.5 by 11. And we can use our same numbers here with our center lines because of that. So we're using a quarter inch extension beyond there. We're using 0.0625 gap here, and our dash should be 1/8 of an inch, 0.125. So all of those numbers can remain the same because the size of our sheet of paper here, our sheet layout, never changes. No matter what, our object can be a different size, and we'll scale it back, scale it up or scale it down, but our sheet size always remains the same. And I will show you how to put the scale in here in a minute. We'll go get these center lines in. 0.25. Now notice how it's close, but it doesn't touch. Make sure you get gaps here. 0.0625. And let's finish this out. We are going to take this all the way out to the outside here. And what should I do? I actually go longer. I come back, snap to that intersection, and then go out 0.25 again, just so I'm specific 0.25. Now I know that this arc here is not the center of that, but what we need to do is we need to show that this center point is off from this line here. So when you bring this center line out, it shows that that's off a little bit, which is what it's supposed to be right there. All right, so we got center lines in, we have our dimensions in. Last thing we want to do is update our title block text. Down here we're going to go flat hook. And once I type that in, I'm going to recenter it. Figure number here, this is the 5th drawing in chapter 2. So this is back still at chapter 2, CH2-5. The scale here, you need to pay attention to this scale. The scale is going to be half size, so it's going to be 1. We're going to do it as a ratio. We're going to do this one different than we have. So half size is 1:2 ratio, and then we're going to put mm for millimeters to show that it's metric. So I can center that up. So pay close attention to how we do this scale. It's a ratio of 1:2, and then millimeters is our unit. So put your date in, update that. Now one last thing I want you to add to this, just like we did on the gasket drawing. We're going to go to copy, just copy this text up, and double click on it. And we're going to put the area calculation in here. So I'm not going to show you what it is because then that's giving the answer. I'll stretch this out. And I want you to put your area calculation in there, and that will complete the flat hook with the area calculation. Thanks for watching. Down.